That's why one of the first things I asked you before we got on air, I said to you, "Great, you lost the weight. Have you kept it off since?" And you said yes, and that's brilliant because it's now been nearly 18 months since then, which is a real testament to yourself and a testament to the education that you've given yourself. But more than anything, you've also taken ownership of that and you've engaged in the process because I believe that everyone on this planet has a duty to learn about their how to take care of their bodies. It's such a critical component that is missed all throughout school, all throughout university, unless you do a degree related to it. You don't learn about what you put in your mouth. You don't learn about how to move your body. If you do, it's
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Being Yourself show, where world's renowned thought leaders, best-selling authors, and entrepreneurs share their wisdom and insight to help you achieve your goals and be more productive, more fulfilled, and a better version of yourself. If you are new here or have not yet done so, then do consider subscribing for your weekly dose of knowledge, inspiration, and motivation. This episode is being recorded in association with Let's Localize, an organization with a mission to foster micro contributions from communities and businesses to support schools for their need of time, skills, and money. To know more about Let's Localize, click on the card above. I'm your host, Ajay Mathur, and my guest today is an author, an entrepreneur, and an educator who spent the last 10 years transforming lives around the world. And in 2017, he founded R&T Fitness to serve this purpose. His vision is to see a world where everyone experiences the power of physical as the vehicle to unlock their potential and do something remarkable with their lives. He's also the host of R&T Fitness radio podcast, where he talks with his team, students, and industry experts all about the truth of transformation. He has been featured in various media outlets such as BBC, T Nation, Elite FTS, and PTDC, while he also regularly speaks globally about transformation. Please welcome the author of his new book, Transform Your Body, Transform Your Life, which I have just finished. I have really enjoyed reading it, Akash Vaghela. Akash, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, AJ. Very kind of you.
Thanks. I was reading the book and I saw somewhere you've written that when you were young in your school, you were not very big, kind of lean guy, right? How did you find, how did you become so interested in fitness, first of all?
I wasn't even a lean guy. I was a skinny fat kid with moves and a pot belly.
Oh,
So when I was 17 years old, I was 58 kilos soaking wet, and my body composition wasn't lean either. So I was I was someone who was always into sports, but I lacked a lot of self confidence in my body, and just like anyone at that age, you're starting getting interested in girls. You're you're you start to think about your body a bit more. And I was about 16, 17 years old, and a friend of mine said to me, "Why don't you come to the gym?" And I said, "I don't want to waste my time at the gym. Why would I do that in my lunch times?" And he said, "I just come and see what happens." So I went, and I think I just got bit by the bug on the first day, and my whole life just the whole trajectory just changed because from that moment I just became absolutely hooked and obsessed with everything health and fitness. I was spending all my free time training, reading about training, understanding about nutrition, science, and really diving deep into the core of the body. At this time in my life, I was destined to be a lawyer, and my dad was a lawyer, and my plan was to follow his footsteps. And in that process, I picked all the relevant subjects that were related to law, so English, history, all these things which look good for a law application. I done work experience in Mumbai, in Germany, in London, and all these sorts of things where everything was geared towards trying to go towards a career in law. And I reached this crossroads around the age of 17. I remember it very vividly. I was in a careers class with my best friend who'd actually introduced me to the gym about a year and a half before. And we were meant to be doing we were meant to be upgrading our personal statements for university application. And I said, and he was sitting next to me, and he saw me instead. I was reading about some nutrition article, and I should have been doing my personal statement. And he said to me, "Akash, why don't you just do something in this career? Why don't you just follow what you love, and why don't you actually just get rid of this law thing, because you're only doing it because your dad said your dad didn't even say so. You just think he said you just think he wants you to do this, and why don't you follow what you actually want to do?" I'd never even considered this a possibility. So that evening, I went home and I spent all night looking at what could be done, and I realized there was a degree called Sport and Exercise Science, and I read the curriculum, read the syllabus, and I thought this is perfect. This is right up my street. I had no idea what career path that could lead to. I didn't know what that you could do with that degree at that time, because 10 years ago, or probably more than that now, the fitness industry was very young, and it still is very young, and there weren't very many opportunities outside of being in the sports world. So, my thinking was, I'll do a sport and exercise science degree, and then I'll be the sports coach for Manchester United. Then that was the sort of typical sell on these degrees. But then you realize there's only 20 Premier League clubs, and the chances of that happening are very, very slim. Uh, but the point was, at that time, then I started thinking a bit differently, and then I went to work at I did a work experience internship where my dad works, and it was 2 weeks long, and I got to the end of the 2 weeks, and I said to myself, I can't do this for the rest of my life. Like, there's no way I'm going to be working here. So a couple of weeks later, I went to my head of year, and I said to him, I want to withdraw my application for the law, and I want to do sports science. And went to a school where everyone was doing one of four subjects. It was one of those very ambitious school, and everyone did law, finance, accountancy, or economics, or something along those lines. And I said something different, and he looked a bit dumbfounded, but realized I was being serious about it, and sort of the rest is history, and that's how I kind of fell into it. And it was all happening between the ages of sort of 16 and 18, and ever since then, I'm nearly 30 now, and my life has just been dedicated towards the benefits that you gain from prioritizing self-care.
And when you started R&T in the fitness space, I mean, I can see a lot of other companies doing it, maybe a little bit different. Did you not feel like you're jumping in a territory whereas there are so many players already existing? How did
Mm.
you convince yourself that you can make a difference here?
I mean, I started R&T Fitness in 2017, so I'd already been in the industry for about 6, 7 years. So I spent all my time at the beginning perfecting my craft and putting in time and miles that a lot of people now skip past, and they don't want to actually go through the hard graft of figuring out how to be an expert in the field. And I spent the first 6, 7 years of my career focusing on perfecting my craft. So when I started R&T, I was able to firstly have a proven methodology, but secondly, the reason we differentiate ourselves is we told a story that goes beyond the physical, and we started talking about the physical being the vehicle for so much more. And when I
Mm.
look back to how fitness impacted my life back when I was in my late teens, it was the focus, the control, the confidence that it gave me that allowed me to do things which I never expected, such as not doing law, such as starting personal training people for free at university, doing things which weren't the given. And it was that focus, control, and confidence that it gave me that I realized that what we were actually doing, wasn't entering into. I noticed you said in the introduction about body transformation. We aren't in the body transformation industry. We're in the transformation world where we're using what people learn here in terms of their taking care of themselves, taking care of their physical being, to use it as a vehicle to do greater things in their life. And we told that story instead, which is what I thoroughly believe in. And that's what differentiated us when we came on the market. Of course, you get plenty of copycats, you get plenty of imitations, and that's fine. Like, that's just part of the journey. But telling a story, for anyone listening, like telling a story that's authentic to you and telling a story that really resonates with you, only you can have that. Only you have your story, right? So me telling my story and telling the story how it applied to other people was what allowed us to flourish and get some growth into the industry.
Couldn't agree more. And I am being myself an example of R&T. I have been trained with you guys, and there was a massive, massive transformation that I have seen, not just in the way I lost weight, quite a lot of it. I would say around 15% of my body weight I lost in 5, 6 months, which was massive for me. But it didn't stop there. It changed so many other things. Your
Mm.
body becomes more healthier. You have less pains, which is something that you didn't plan initially when you started doing some workout and stuff, right? And it's more to do with learning about food. And I can share my experience. The one thing that really, really, really helped me keeping that lost weight, and I never gained it again, is because I understand food now. And that is what I learned from you guys. I every time when I'm eating something, I know how many calories this has, how many protein, how much protein, how much carb, how much fat, all of it. And if you have that kind of knowledge, and if somebody teaches you that rather than how to lift a dumbbell, I would say that is more effective and that's more sustainable.
That's why one of the first things I asked you before we got on air, I said to you, "Great, you lost the weight. Have you kept it off since?" And you said yes, and that's brilliant because it's now been nearly 18 months since then, which is a real
Yep.
testament to yourself and a testament to the education that you've given yourself. But more than anything, you've also taken ownership of that and you've engaged in the process because I believe that everyone on this planet has a duty to learn about their how to take care of their bodies. It's such a critical component that is missed all throughout school, all throughout university, unless you do a degree related to it. You don't learn about what you put in your mouth. You don't learn about how to move your body. If you do, it's a couple of star jumps in the field in a forgotten PE session. It's not the foundation. And self-care, nutrition, training, mindset, lifestyle, how to manage these things just aren't taught in school and just aren't taught to anyone until what happens 20, 10, 15, 20 years later. You're meant to be firing on all cylinders, but instead you just let your body go. And then you reach a crisis point, you reach a trigger point where it's like, oh crap, I feel lethargic all the time. I'm overweight. I've got pain everywhere. I don't feel confident. And all of a sudden you're now left in this moment of crisis where you don't know what to do because you've never learned it. You've never learned what you put in your mouth. You never learned how to move your body. So you go in search of all these things, but because you don't know any better, you're unable to create a good filter on the right information and the right education. And that's why I believe everyone has this duty to themselves. We all owe it to ourselves to learn about how to take care of your body. And by default, your mind, your lifestyle, etc.
I think you got fortunate incidents that happened and made you realize that okay, this is the area that I would be doing something in. But if you look back in time, let's say 15 years, when you were 15 years of age, and you said that you had skinny, fat. At that point, what would be your advice now to that Akash to have even more better future? Or I mean, many kids of that age will be
Yeah.
able to resonate because not everybody gets the right path that you have gone. Many people are just
Yeah.
lost. So
So I
what's your
always get
advice?
asked, how do I find my passion? How do I do what I love? And I think it's a big myth out there actually. The real the real answer to it is people are passionate about work they're good at. People are passionate about skills that they have a strong mastery of. What you need to do is you need to ask yourself, what skills do I want to learn? What do I want to be good at? What do I enjoy? But this only comes through trial and error. I was lucky that in my trial and error, I managed to stumble on health and fitness quite early on in my trial and error.
Mm,
But that's not for most people. Most people will find that later on. But it's
exactly.
important that you continue that trial and error mindset because if you don't try new things, you won't understand what you do and you dislike it and you like. But on the flip side, if you don't stick with anything long enough, you won't give anything an opportunity to get good at it. Because when you get good at something, then all of a sudden you have a lot of passion for it. So there's a flip side to it as well. And you have to understand which are the dips worth kind of going through and which are the ones that you need to think, okay, actually, this is not for me. And that takes a lot of self-awareness. That takes an understanding of what's really putting you in flow and what's potentially something you're just banging your head against and not really going to get anywhere. So it's understanding that flip side. And it's an important one to kind of ensure that you have. Because there's this whole like you're expecting this treasure chest of passion to just open up in front of you and 1 minute you're just going to land on the job of your dreams and it doesn't happen like that, does it? It's it's we're sold this thing on TV and in movies and in books, but the reality is it takes a lot of just getting good at something and a lot of time and miles and then understanding which ones are worth sticking at, which ones aren't.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'm firm believer that start doing something. Don't just wait finding your why if you're not able to find what exactly you want to do from. And we had very interestingly had an interview last week with Shannon Paulson. She is American fighter pilot, one of the first to fly Apache aircraft, and her book is about grit and finding your passion. So we spoke a lot in detail. I'll put the link somewhere here. It's worth checking that as well. Yeah, but taking action is the key. I mean, for myself, if I don't know my purpose, I would just do something, try something, and then maybe I'll find it eventually.
Remember, to make a change in your life, you need introspection and action. You need
Exactly.
to introspect, which is understanding yourself, finding out what you want to do, but you have to then match it with action. Otherwise, if you only introspect, you won't get anywhere. If you only take action, you'll be doing it without any awareness and doing it
Mm,
blindly. So it's important you always marry the two.
exactly. And what inspired you to write this book? And this book is, who gave you this idea that a fitness book can be a fitness book without having a single exercise written or pictured in it? Because I could count. I was just waiting for, you'll talk about some sort of
Magical program.
push-ups or something. I only found only one page where you write about some exercise names. That's it. And the entire book is without any of such information. But it is even more stronger content in it and a message. So who gave you that? How did you get that idea?
The biggest problem in our industry is there's too many 8-week blitzes, there's too many 12-week plans, there's too many quick fixes available.
Hmm.
And there's no shortage of diet books. There's no shortage of training books. Me putting another training or diet book out there isn't gonna impact the world in any positive way.
Yeah,
What needed to be said was that there was too many of these, and the reality is most people are so fixated on these quick fixes, they aren't focusing on what comes after. They aren't focusing on staying in shape. And staying in shape is all psychological. Anyone can get. It's funny. I start the book off, and I remember back in when I was writing this book, I was asking for some feedback for some people, and they said to me, "You sure you want to start with that line?" Because it said, "Getting in shape is easy. Staying in shape is a whole different ballgame." And I mean it, because getting in shape, anyone can lose weight. That's why you see all these before and after pictures everywhere. Everyone can lose weight, but can you stay there? Because that's the real celebration. Can you stay there? Because if you stay there and you do it in a healthy way, then you unlock all the benefits that health and fitness gives you. Otherwise, you just end up in this perpetual cycle that you're constantly feeding. So I felt like it was a duty to write about the journey of getting in shape, of staying in shape, and unlocking all the vehicles, as opposed to just putting another "let's get you ripped in 16 weeks" book, which that you can get those anywhere you look, and they'll all work fine. They all work, right? Every diet and training plan works.
exactly.
But what can you do for life? What can you do that fits your lifestyle, that it becomes a way of life? Because this has to become a way of life. It can't become something you just do and then you don't do, or you cycle on and off. That doesn't work like that. It has to become a way of life. And when you start approaching your self care with the mentality of this is now a way of being, then you'll be surprised how many benefits you get.
That is so true. And what I see with people that, and we know that by the end of February, all of the resolutions are broken, and majority of them are about your health and fitness. What goes wrong?
Yeah, the every year without fail, the gym memberships. Maybe not now because we're in a lockdown, but
Yeah.
everyone's membership just disappear. And the reality is, it comes back to this cycle that we're in of quick fixes, yo-yo diets, and it's because no one is thinking long term. They're not thinking about it as a way of life.
Mm,
It's to let me get in shape. Let me get in shape. It's obsession with a physical, tangible, materialistic achievement of let me get in shape, not what will this do for me, or what will staying in shape do for my life. And if we start rewiring our mindsets to start thinking long term, I guarantee you, there's February won't make any difference to health and fitness trends. However, we've got a cycle that's so imprinted into our society that it's a very difficult one to break. But we can only do that through continuously giving the message that we can't just think of quick fixes. You can't just think of being in a continuous cycle, and that's the problem really. It's because when they start on January 1st, they're usually starting something like a 30-day plan or a 6-week cut after your Christmas. That's how it's all framed, isn't it? So it's no wonder that you're going to slip off in 6 weeks.
mm. Okay, so I think let's touch upon your 5 phases that you mention in the book also quite in detail. Can you take us through, the viewers who are watching, what's your approach to long-term sustainable health and fitness with your 5 step or 5 phases of fitness? Just give us a kind of 2-minute rundown on how it works and what are the different phases?
Sure. So the first phase is always around building your foundations, and this is when you discover why this is important to you. You understand your why behind your why. So really getting into yourself and introspecting on why it's important to you. Thinking about who you want to become, thinking about how you'll make this as part of your lifestyle and integrate into your lifestyle with your structure, your strategy, and your systems for accomplishing all the self-care practices. We call it cleaning the palette, but really it's just about the foundation building of your journey. You then go into a phase called the process phase, which is about uh, making all the new habits and behaviors a regular part of the journey and a process which enables you to get into the shape of your life. When you're there to shape your life, this is where most people go wrong. If you compare the analogy to a top of a mountain, you can either take the safe passage home where you go slowly on the way down, or you can just try and get down as fast as possible. And what end up happening is you end up falling down, breaking your bones, and ending up in worse place than you were. Hence, aka the rebound. That's why you need a consolidation phase, and then you go into a period of investment. And this is the most important phase because it's the long rewiring of your behavior, your mindset, and your identity, so that you're now someone who identifies with being a healthy, lean individual. I have the phase five called the reward, but for me this is a bit of an enigma because I don't believe that there's an ultimate reward. My thoughts on this have evolved to more that you just end up recycling a long investment phase where this just becomes a way of being, and there's no way you're going back to the old ways because you know how important this is for you.
So let's try to understand it more practically. So somebody who is, let's say, 100 kg, they should be 70. For them, they come to you and tell us their journey. How will it look in phase one? What changes will happen in phase one? What changes will happen in phase two? And so on.
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult one to answer because it's difficult to predict how someone's going to go. But if you've got, say, for example, 30 kilos to lose,
Assume they do everything that you say.
yeah, you got to start by understanding why you're doing this. You got to start understanding why it's important to you. Connect it to more than just the physical. It can't just be I want to lose 30 kilos so I look great on the beach. It's got to go a little bit deeper than that. After that, it's pretty straightforward in that you've just got to make sure that you're training regularly in a form you love. You're eating in a calorie deficit with sensible food choices. You're being active with a daily step count of anywhere from like 10,000 upwards. You're sleeping regularly and you're staying hydrated. It's very basic. Those, if you think about it, the behaviors around self-care. That if you do that consistently, you will lose 30 kilos. Where it gets difficult is when you have to deal with something that's called the muck, and this is the demons in your head, the past demons, which force you to use crutches such as junk food, sedentary behavior, alcohol, drugs, etc., to fill a void. We all use these crutches to fill a void when we get triggered by something. And it's one of the most critical components to staying in shape for life. So that person who's 100 kilos, getting down to 70 kilos, that would be pretty straightforward. When you get there, you're now going to be confronted with the muck of the past that got you to 100 in the first place. But you've got to now rewire your behavior to now not use the same crutches you used back then when you're now 70, because your brain is still thinking like a 100 kilo person, but you're actually a 70 kilo person now. And you've got to now rewire your behavior, rewire your identity, and change your mindset around it. So that when you get triggered in life, when you get thrown in a stressful situation, or when life gets in the way, you don't just reach for the packet of biscuits. You don't just binge on Netflix till 1 a.m. You instead go for a walk and call your friend. Those small behavior changes make a massive difference to then allowing you to consolidate and allowing you to move into investment and reward where it becomes a way of life. Does that make sense? That's the most important um, differentiator for someone who wants to stay in shape, because now they've got to deal with life in a different way. And so many of us, all of us are guilty of this, is we use crutches to deal with a lot of stuff going on in life. And those crutches typically involve negatively impacting your self-care.
And I think that comes from your childhood and the kind of habits that you said that whatever made you 100 kgs, right? If you go, I mean, right now schools are shut, but when they're open and you go at around 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock outside in McDonald's, they're full of children just having McD's food and just having fun. So the having fun is a kind of synonymous for them to go and gather somewhere like Burger King or McD and start munching on French fries, for example. So, and that's the reason that it becomes so difficult to get rid of those kind of habits. I think that's where your, micro tiny habit changes becomes so important, isn't it?
If you think about McDonald's and kids, the association is huge. Like they are very clever with their marketing. They're very clever at creating a second home environment or an association for parents to take their kids to make a real fun experience.
Mm,
And when I was a kid, I was going to McDonald's every Friday. It was like the Friday treat, and you associate these things. Uh, the the way we have to manage this, I think it starts from education at school, but we don't get it. I don't know what school is like now in terms of their education with health and fitness, but as far as I'm concerned, it's not mandatory and it's not done in any detail. It's very in the background, covered for one subject, maybe if you're lucky in your curriculum. But it really needs to become a crux for awareness, not only for the children, but also for the parents. So the parents understand as well how letting their kids go to McDonald's or Burger King every single day is probably not healthy for them. Maybe once a week, twice a month, for example, that might be okay. But if it's every single day and it becomes a habit, that's a real problem. Especially if we're talking socioeconomically, where we're talking around schools that are in potentially deprived areas. There's very strong research to show that in more deprived areas, there's more fried chicken shops and there's more takeaway joints. And kids are exposed to these a lot more, especially if they're going to a school in these areas. And what happens? They associate these behaviors from a young age. It becomes part of their wiring. Then it becomes very difficult to break out of that cycle. But we
mm,
have to encourage. It's a bigger problem than we may think because our environment is so conducive to how we act and behave. You can go to an area that's a little bit nicer, and you'll get vegan cafes. You'll get these fancy bougie restaurants. You go to one a bit more deprived, and you've got red and white signals everywhere, like just drawing to your eyes of Kentucky Fried Chicken, all the different variations. If you count every 5 takeaways, 4 of them are probably fried chicken shops, which all sell for under £2. So for a kid who's growing up in that area, that's cheap, easy, affordable food.
mm,
And this is the big problem that we have on a socio-economic basis, how this dictates a lot of our nation's health and fitness. Self-care was taught in a healthy, approachable, sustainable manner, not in like you need to count your calories. That doesn't need to be taught. If we could taught about the proteins, about what's good food, what's not less good, how to be more active, just very basic stuff. If this was taught at a young age and
mm.
to parents, we'd have much better education across the board when it comes to health and fitness, and this would carry over later on in life. I think one of the questions you were going to ask is around like what would you like to see, and I think this is something I would love to see in schools.
Wow, good, good, good. Finger cross. Okay, you mentioned about sleep in 5 minutes ago, and sleep is one area that is kind of underlooked. Nobody bothers about how long you should sleep in order to have a good health, especially when you are losing fat or gaining muscles or something like that. Tell us about the importance of sleep in your body fitness journey.
I mean, sleep is spoken about a lot. It's taken for granted. What you end up hearing more about is how you need to sleep less to be more successful. The reality is to function at your cognitive best, you need to be sleeping well. Outside of cognition and general performance, when it comes to managing your body composition, if you don't sleep much, your hunger hormones are going to be a lot higher. They're going to be
Mm,
playing tricks with you. You're going to wake up thinking you're hungry, but you're actually not. You're just sleep deprived, and that's probably another big issue that we see in people who think they're hungry, but they're really just sleep deprived. And I think that's one of the most important links and factors included in managing healthy body composition over time. In that sleeping well, sleeping consistently, prioritizing it, not watching Netflix till 1 a.m. is going to do a lot more for you than you think because it's going to allow you to be at your best on all cylinders the following day.
mm. And there is at a place in, I'm just going back to those 5 stages, right? And your investment phase, where that's where you talk about gaining lean muscle, and you talk about most of the people, they underestimate how much of fat they have and they overestimate how much of muscles they have.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell us more, a little bit more about this thing, because I always struggle. I sometimes feel
Yeah.
that, am I really losing weight? Is it the fat that is being lost, or is it the muscles that are being lost? because you lose this much of muscle, you lose maybe 1 kilo versus this much of fat is losing 1 kilo, right?
But this is definitely a guy problem, I'd say.
Hmm.
Every guy overestimates how much muscle they have. They all think they're full of muscle mass and all they're carrying is a bit of extra water weight. The reality is they completely underestimate how much body fat they have. And it's one of the
Mm.
most humbling experiences when you're told, actually, you got another 10 kilos to lose. I remember when I first decided to compete in bodybuilding, I I thought to myself, "Oh, I don't even have to lose like 3 4 kilos and I'm good to look on stage. And lo and behold, I had to lose another 10 after that. And the reality is, for most people, there is a range that I've sort of come up with, having looked at so many different people, and I've yet to see it fail. For most people, if they have a certain height, there'll be a range that they fall into for the average person, and it's a humbling range. Like, for most people, they don't like to be told that you're probably going to be in your 60s or 50s, high 50s or 60s or low 70s if you want to be lean. Most people think they're going to be 85 kilos with a six pack, and it's just not the case. It's a very humbling experience, and without fail, every person is always a bit deluded as to how much muscle they have.
Couldn't agree more. When I first met you guys, and I thought, I just need to lose 3 4 kgs
Yeah,
because I'm generally looking okay. I'm not overweight, and told me the coach that you need to lose at least 15 kgs. I was like, what? That's not possible. But I actually did manage to do lose 13 kgs in 6 months. So, and I realized that the body composition has changed. The way I look has become so different. And on that, I have been asked so many times, and you have mentioned in the book also, to how people will react to your transformation. And I can tell you that not even a week ago, somebody, very close friend of mine, told me, "Where are your cheeks?" Because when I started and this fitness and everything, I used to have kind of, I'll put the picture somewhere here, right? I was kind of a bit more chubbier than I am right now. And oftentimes my family, especially, they keep asking me, my mother, father, what happened to you? You're not eating, you've lost so much of it, anything, you're so stressful, something is not all right. And then you get these kind of questions from everywhere. How do the people, I mean, I know a lot of your clients do face such situations. How do they handle this kind of scenario where at one point you feel like, man, I'm going to eat something now, I want to look like how people want me to look?
I mean, I've been told I'm an anorexic swimmer. I've been told, have you got AIDS? I've been told all sorts of things back when I've been competing in bodybuilding. Um, the thing is, what I tell people is that most people who criticize you in this situation are just really deflecting their own insecurities on them. And all
Mm.
you're doing is you're just showing them a mirror. You're showing them a mirror to their own insecurities, which is why they are defecting onto you and saying, "Oh, AJ, where's your cheeks gone? Oh, AJ, you look ill." They're just more insecure about themselves. That's the problem, right? And if you could, but the problem is, the first time you experience this, you think the world's ending. You think uh, that you're doing something really bad, that you should just eat something, you should go back to how you used to be. But it's not like that. It's just people aren't used to you taking charge, aren't used to you prioritizing your self care, and they've probably not experienced it either. Whereas if you're around people that do take care of themselves and are interested in health and fitness and prioritize it, they'll think, AJ, you've done a great job. And I think that's the important differentiator that everyone who's on this journey should remember. And don't let criticism about people's self insecurities deflect onto you.
Yeah, and I would like to add something to it. It's not just the insecurities, because some people are genuinely want you to be happy, right? Your parents at least, right? And
Yeah,
they are
yeah, sure.
saying it because it's just that they don't know.
This is the other thing. So I'm glad you mentioned it. There's also an education element to it as well. So there's
Yeah.
the insecurity one, which is one, but there's a valid point you're mentioning here in that there's an education piece, and this is more for the older people who just don't know that that's how it works. They don't know that you can be leaner. They don't know you can live a healthier lifestyle, and there definitely needs to be a sense of education for not only the younger people, but the parents and the grandparents and so on as well. Which is why this really needs to be something which is prioritized across the board.
Mm. Yeah. So now we are all in lockdown, and I do struggle. I mean, I do home workout nowadays. I'm doing okay, but in your book and in your teachings, And anybody will tell you that if you progressively increase the amount of weight you carry in order to build your muscles and become bigger if you want to, because I mean, I know that I've lost quite a lot, but if I start gaining muscles, then I might look like I used to be, not exactly like before, but in a better version of that, right? So in order to build more muscles, you have to increase the weights you carry, you lift, and those kind of things. But that is not possible in the lockdown. So how do you deal with that kind of situation to somebody who wants to really continue their journey, but because of lockdown, they're kind of stuck?
I think firstly that's a big myth in itself. I don't think there's a reason why you can't make progress in lockdown. There's always ways you can progress. I'm the strongest I've ever been in lockdown. Many of our students are the same. That you have to become inventive to different ways to approach your health and fitness. If it's a priority, you'll find different ways. For example, you can if you only got access to small amounts of weight, or if you only got body weight, you can always train with more reps. You can adjust your rest periods. You can increase your tension. You can slow down your tempo. There's multiple ways to make progression outside of just weights. Progressive overload, the easiest way to do it is add weight and then add reps. But there are many other factors as well that go into it. Ultimately, your muscles just need to have progressive tension over time. And that tension can come in multiple ways. So if you're in lockdown, you just have to be more inventive with what that tension is for the muscle.
This is important, and this is for the people who are blaming the lockdown for
Yeah.
not being in shape, that it is still possible.
One
Yeah.
of the best ways to deal with lockdown is to take care of yourself. Like it's when most of the nation are eating more junk than ever, more sedentary than ever, you have an opportunity to take control and say to yourself, well, actually, why should I let lockdown and and imposed circumstances weigh me down? I don't have to just sit on the couch all the time. I can be active in the home. I can go for a walk. There are multiple things you can do to take care of yourself.
And I think the lockdown has done something good also in that sense, because people are eating less junk because there are not many opportunities to go out and eat junk, right? Not lots of things are
Yeah.
shut anyways, and then they are kind of eating their home cooked food, which is healthier, even if you make the most, I don't know, spicy or very unhealthy home food is healthier than the normal food you eat outside, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it depends. People can still have takeaways. People can still cook junk. They can still raid their biscuit box. I think there needs to be a level of ownership here. I think everyone needs
Yeah.
to take responsibility of their health.
Yeah. Yeah. So everything that comes down to the mindset of you really want to get fit, you will get fit, right?
Yeah,
As simple as that.
I think more and more though, I'm just seeing like we're living in such a perpetual cycle of rebounds and yo-yos and just a loss of control of something that's such a core foundation of our lives that yes, there's a whole how bad do you want it? Do you have a why? All of that stuff. But more than anything, and I finished off the final chapter in the book, I titled it, You Owe It to Yourself. Because you do. You do owe it to yourself to look after yourself. We only have one body here. We only have one body on this earth. And to maximize your potential, to maximize your performance, you can only do that with a healthy, functioning body. So if anyone has any level of ambition to want the best for themselves, which I know is a big part of the listeners here, taking care of your body is the foundation.
What if somebody is at the stage that they are somehow not seeing results? So they're not able to they're not able to follow the exercise routine, for example, or they're not able to follow a certain diet, and they're very early on thinking of giving up. I mean, that's what people do, right? By the end of the second month of the year. What is your advice, actionable something, steps that you can tell people to, wait for some more time, it'll work, it'll work.
Yeah. The problem
I
is
need to,
we're in such a society that's obsessed with quick results and quick. Like I've got to see it in the next 3 weeks, and that's the problem. Like it's probably a problem of instant gratification, the industry itself, social media, um, the way society is. There needs to be a thinking of, okay, what am I actually going to stick with? And this comes if we circle it right back to what we started talking about around passion. It's the same thing there. You're not going to find your passion in 3 weeks, but if you give up after trying something for 3 weeks every time, don't be surprised if you're just spinning your wheels 30 years later because you've not actually stuck with something.
Mm.
And program hopping, diet hopping, career hopping, it's so common that we need to stick with something for a long period of time and really get good at something before we quit.
This is very powerful if you really know how to use this kind of, uh, in fact, implant it in your brain, right? That's more important, and that's the reason I love this book, because it talks so much about mindset rather than really lifting something, which is great. So Akash, I can ask you many questions about fitness, but in the interest of time, I will ask you one question that I ask all my guests, which is, according to you, what are the top 3 skills or behaviors that we should know early on, but schools are not teaching them?
I think I've touched on one already, which
You
is
have.
around nutrition and general self care. So I'll count that as one. The second one would be around creativity. And I think schools need to encourage more creativity. There's too much of a pass or fail. You got an A, B, C, D mentality that stifles people's creativity. I always get asked, "Oh, how do you be more creative? How do I come up with ideas like you do?" It's simple. It's a muscle. It's something you just have to keep doing, and the more you do it, think back to when you were a child, when you were drawing paintings, when you were making sandcastles, and you were doing all these cool things. You were creative then. What happened? School happened. School said you need to be good at English, maths, and science. School didn't say you need to be good at art or these sorts of things. Or it didn't say find your creative element and keep that going. No, it's like, no, you need to pass this test. You need to learn this exact timetable and pass the test. So you lose your creativity. And that carries on in the workplace. When you're in the workplace, you're told, just do this and don't do anything else. What happens? You lose that creativity. So creativity is another one. And I would actually say the third one would be uh, probably potentially I'm biased, but I would say writing. I know it's taught in English, like to an extent, but it's more, I'm talking creative writing, really emphasizing the concept and habit of writing. I think there's so much benefits that goes beyond that. You may one day write a book, that's fine, but it's more the ability to clarify your thinking, the ability to solve problems, and the ability to understand yourself that comes from writing that I've not seen from anything else. And I think that should be more heavily emphasized in school. There's a fourth one I just got to say is around finance and tax and all these sorts of things you only learn when you're 25 or 30. You don't learn any of these things as a kid,
Yeah.
but the three that are most close to me are creativity, writing, and self-care.
Yeah, couldn't agree more on creativity. And one reason is that we stop asking questions when we grow up.
Yeah, we're just
Sometimes,
told that we need to do this or need to do that,
exactly.
and your success is your 3A stars, and
Mm,
uh, there's there's no room for the others who may find themselves much later on, but they thought for a long time that they didn't have what it takes because they
mm.
just weren't in the right environment.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. So now that you have written a book, you have a successful business. What next?
What next? uh, well, you said like you have a successful business, and I never see it like that. For me, I see this as like we're only nearly 4 years in now. For me, we're just getting started. We've got too much of a culture to change. We've got too much of a mentality to shift. That what we've done so far is only scratched the surface. There needs to be a real push in the truth of transformation. Everyone thinks this is easy. Everyone thinks that getting that just taking care of yourself is easy. It's not. The truth of transformation needs to come out. The push to be in shape for life, not just get in shape, but shape for life. That's why you made me really happy today when you said you stayed in shape for 18 months. And I'm gonna expect some pictures from you. So I want to see this.
I'll put
Uh,
some.
yeah,
Uh,
send them over.
yeah, I don't have the visible six packs, but I
That
can
doesn't
see
matter.
one ab.
It doesn't matter though. You stayed in shape. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, yeah,
And we need more people to embrace a growth mindset to be able to want to learn about these things. So, we've got a lot of things to do in terms of education that I feel like what we've done so far has only just scratched the surface of what's possible, but we can go deeper. So
great,
yeah,
great, good to
it's a
hear that.
journey.
Yeah, and all the best for that journey. I've not found many people who are not talking just about the success of their business, but talking about how many lives they are impacting and how many mindsets they are changing. So, which is really, really novel, really good. Thank you very much.
No, thank you.
All right. So, how can people reach you?
You can go on our website, rntfitness.com. You can follow me on Instagram at Akash Vaghela. I also have a daily blog now on akashvaghela.com where I write general musings on creativity, performance, entrepreneurship. It's a bit different to my usual sort of writing. And yeah, those are the places you can find me.
Okay. Thank you very much, Akash. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. And the one reason is that I've not just read your book, I've actually lived your book myself. So it was amazing experience reading the book and talking to you on this show. Thank you very much for your time, and I really appreciate it.
No, thank you very much for having me. I wish you all the best.
Thank you, everyone. If you want to know more about what he has written in the book, this is amazing read. I'm telling you, it's a very different approach of how you look at health and fitness. Do check out his blog that he has just mentioned. I'll put the links down there. And if this episode has added any value to you, and if you have not yet done so, then this is the time to hit the subscribe button and bell icon so that you get notification of my all future videos. I'll see you again with an amazing guest next week. Until then, you take care and keep learning.